The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Community TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Well, she threw lead curling stones for the best team ever produced in Nova Scotia. She is a three-time world, six-time national champion. A pleasure to welcome Nancy Delahunt to Legends of the Hall. Good to have you on the program.
Nice to be here.
What do you remember about first ever picking up a curling stone?
First ever picking up a curling stone. Not introduced as early as kids are today. Like today, it's age 4, age 5. It would have been junior high. First time I would have been, my mom and dad curled through my whole life, but we were never offered a chance like until junior high. So it was one of those junior high sports. Clarence Watson, I'll never forget, still alive in Windsor. And it was a junior high school curling program. We went to the Windsor Curling Club, and I guess it was a natural, I was probably always going to curl because my mom and dad curled, but grade 7, so what's that, 12 years old?
Yeah.
You know, most kids go a lot earlier than that now, yeah.
Can you recall liking it right away?
Oh gosh, oh, that's a lot of years ago. I remember I was a rider at the time, so my primary sport was equestrian, so I was a rider. Which
you were
was
a show jumper? Jumping?
Mostly dressage,
okay.
And I did that all through high school. So if you're into that, that's a big commitment. You're not doing, you know, so that was my priority. I was at the barn every day, but there was 2 afternoons a week after school that I would go to curling. And I remember being pretty, like I could do it, you know. I always thought volleyball and basketball and stuff like that were interesting, but I was never very good at it. Like it was a sport I could work and get better at. Kind of the same as I guess riding, like something I could work at on my own and get better at, you know, kind of thing. Obviously curling is a team sport, but there's such an individual component of it in terms of your skill set. You could work on it yourself, you know, you could practice yourself kind of thing, so yeah.
When did you sense you were getting good enough to compete at this game, sort of at a provincial level?
Well, I mean, the little old Windsor had a pretty strong curling group. By the time I got to high school, you know, there were then the high school provincials, which seemed like the biggest events at the time. I know juniors are bigger now than high school events, but in those days, the schoolboys and schoolgirls was a big thing. That's actually where I met Colleen first, was curling provincial schoolgirls, grade 10, against Colleen Jones.
Was she good?
She was good, always the one to beat. And I remember, I was also in the band, so I remember going to Amherst. It was a provincial competition. It was a double knockout. And I'd beaten her she had to beat me twice. And I lost 2 of my players to the band program because the band leader wouldn't allow anything to come before band. So she smoked me the first game, and then she won back-to-back games to beat me. But I tell you, I know she would remember that, or she remembers generally meeting me and knowing me since then. So that would have been grade 10. So how old are you there, grade 10? 15, 16 years old probably.
Yeah.
So then I knew, I mean, and we were always sort of contenders at provincials, but Colleen was the one to beat, as she continued to be and still is. Yeah,
yeah, she was the star back even then.
She really was, with
Yeah.
her sisters, almost exclusively with sisters. I
Right.
shouldn't say that, her Sally Saunders, but a lot of sisters involved in that day. Yeah.
So her story was she won the Scotties in 82.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that many more Scotties would
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
It never really did. And,
Yeah.
and she, all of a sudden, national media would talk about her as the one that can win in Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
but can't pull it off
Yeah.
anymore at the national level.
Yeah.
How did you come back into her life to form what turned out to be the
Yeah.
team for the ages?
You know, I never really left it. It's an odd situation. Colleen was, she was an out-of-the-box girl way back in 82. So in 82 when she won her national, but again, I'd known her since, 76 kind of thing. So, and we would just, because of the curling circles through high school, you kind of knew her. She went to university for a time, actually asked me to play with her at Dalhousie, and I declined because I chose not to curl in high school, in junior or in university. But we just, she was getting in the media at the time. If I ever ran into her, I'd make a point of just saying hello. I would send her messages, like when she was curling with other teams. For whatever reason, I always supported her. And she wasn't always supported, by the general public, back in the the late 80s and such, she was doing things differently that maybe didn't quite go along with the protocol of the way curling, curling was played and the whole social aspect of curling and all of what. She was doing things differently. So she wasn't supported, I don't think, as much as some other curlers were. I always felt I don't know what it was, just a real affinity to her. I had great respect for her. I always was hoping she would win, always. And she knew that. And so we kind of never lost touch entirely. Through the 80s, I curled with different people. Kim and I curled with a few different teams before we actually got to play with Colleen again. But we soon realized it's like, okay, we got to play with Colleen here. Like, we played with a couple of different people. It's kind of like, okay, how do we get on that team over there? And so Kim ended up playing with Colleen first. I was having babies. I was their fifth in early 1991, I guess it was. And again, always a supporter. Like if she was in provincials, I was always sending her notes with very sincere good lucks. And so then I remember Angie Romke was the lead at the time. It would have been in 1995. And I called her and I said, and my son was not yet 1 year old. And I said, I'd like to play. And she said, great, come along. So that was in 1995.
And was that the four that became the four?
No, that was Kim, Colleen, and I.
Okay.
And so we went through a lot of different, at that time, we had probably Kay Zink, Kay Smith, and we had Monica, and we had Helen Radford. I think those we went through, and then in 1998, Marianne came along. So that would have been 95, 96, 97. That's it. I think I'm missing one player, but there was definitely a sync between Colleen, Kim, and I, for sure. And we used to joke like, too bad we couldn't curl with three. Like, we did have a sync, and we were really willing to learn from Colleen, and she had lots to train. She had lots of lessons, and so we were so into that. And then when Marianne came aboard. And I'm not sure that story exactly. I remember her coming to my living room for the first meeting, and she was willing to play any position and do anything. And it was just that, it was a magic piece. It really just filled out that one corner, yeah.
Colleen, you mentioned she went through a lot of teammates before she found that magic team.
Yeah.
You referred to her as out of the box and a bit anti-establishment.
Yeah.
Was she tough to play with for a time because her level of competitiveness was so darn high?
Yeah, you can call it tough. I mean, and I think that she was a little more seasoned by the time I actually started to play with her, which would have been in 1995. I think she was tough to play for in 83 and 87, and I do. But again, it's all how you. It's not personal, it's all a matter of if you are in line with the same goals. And I never found her, there were times that all of us bothered each other. There were times that you might, someone would say something that's not quite the way that you might have said it, but it was never, I think that was one of the secrets to our team and our longevity, is none of us folded our tent and went home. It was just caused to, our commitment to that team and to that friendship was way more than any incident or any reaction or any one, Wednesday afternoon meeting or whatever. We had a commitment to the team and a commitment to those friendships too, which we still have. So was she hard to play for? She was very demanding, and praise the Lord, I say. We wouldn't have gotten where we are if she had not been demanding.
So that sets the scene perfectly for the greatest run ever for a women's team in Canadian curling history. We'll explore that with Nancy Delahunt. Legends of the Hall continues in just a moment. More with curling legend Nancy Delahunt here on Legends of the Hall. Let's go to 1999, right? So This team is together in Colleen's, I guess, 17 years between Scotty wins, and you show up in Charlottetown with what kind of expectations?
Yeah, good question. I'd been to 2 Scots with her already, 96 and 97. And expectations, you know, we said we wanted to make playoffs and we said we would want to win. And but I don't know if at that point we really even truly believed it, you know. I do remember in previous Scotties going to the locker room probably in 96 or 97, and Team Manitoba, who became good friends, that was Kathy Overton was on the team, playing for Connie Laliberty, and I remember Colleen coming up to them and going, so what, like when you guys come to the Scott, like what you expect to make playoffs? And they go, well, yeah, like, yeah, we're Manitoba, you know, from Manitoba, you just expect that. And I remember thinking at that point, okay, like, it's kind of like the why not me thing, you know? Whereas, because Nova Scotia had become very comfortable in just having a winning record. If you could get a winning record, that was considered successful. But we, you know, in 99, when we put Marianne on the team, I think we really would have been disappointed not to make playoffs. But I have to say, Bruce, like, it was still, I'd never made playoffs in the Scotties. And I'd played in a number of them before that. And so, and then we set, you know, the leaderboard started building up, and we went 8-0. We started 8-0. It started like 4-0 and 4. And like we used to laugh because for the first time we didn't have to, near the end of the round robin, sometimes if Kim and I were out late, we'd switch around the leaderboard and put Nova Scotia at the top, you know. And so we'd go out and we go, oh, we don't have to switch us around this time.
We're legit.
True story. We're really there. And so, you know, that started to build momentum. We played great, but we were still so green. And I say this openly, and I've said it to many, many people, I don't think we were a great team in 99. I don't think we were great. I think, and we beat Kathy King in that final. And strong game. There was a shot not made against us. Heather Godberson, what is her married name now? Married to David, played third for Randy Furby. Nedwin. Heather Nedwin made a shot for us, basically, in the ninth then, and it really turned the game around. But anyway, I digress. We played well, but I always said if we had to play Kathy King, who was Team Canada that year, if we had to play her 3 out of 5, I don't think we would have won. I don't think we were that, and they had already been anointed as Team Canada, and all of what comes with that. Like, you get a lot more, you know, all of a sudden doors open, resources are there, you've got reason to believe, and it's way easier to practice. So they were already an elite team. We were far from an elite team in 1999.
And that was backed up by the fact that you went to the Worlds and did not have a good Worlds. And
Exactly.
then at the next year's Scotties, I don't think even made playoffs,
So
right?
disappointing.
As defending champ.
Very disappointing, yeah.
So put those 2 disappointments back to back and tell me what you did to come back to start that 4-year run that began after the year you missed playoffs.
Ken Bagnall.
Okay, you're a sport psychologist.
Without a doubt. Like, I mean, that was, if you're going to look at the variables and say what changed, I mean, it was Ken. And so in 99 when we won, we were carded. Like, it was the first year of having carding in curling. So all of a sudden you've got some money. We did get some sponsorship from Scott Paper and such. So, and all of a sudden you were allowed, you know, you were offered some sports psychology and such. And that was a 2-year carding. So we had that, and we had the next year, even though we didn't win in Prince George, we still had a year of carding because it was a 2-year thing. And Ken had been the director at Sport Nova Scotia at the time, and he was sort of lining up some sports psychology work for us. But as he got to know our team, he said, I think I can help you guys. And he had training in sports psychology, and we said, great. And so he came on board and really managed us, Bruce. Like, he managed our 12 months of the year in a way that we just weren't attentive to the detail on, I think. And he also, because he knew sport in general, I think he knew all of the various components and how to set up that agenda of what we needed to do, set up individual commitments on. Some of us like to practice more than others. There was just, he was just a genius in you know, a recipe that kind of worked for everybody, but made everybody committed to the end point of excellence we were trying to get at. Because you've got 4 women that have all kinds of different, we had a lot going on in those days. We all had young kids, there was a lot of priorities, and we were all very different. So Ken was able to pull together the must-do list, and he was so good at being attentive to all of our needs, both technically and emotionally and team-wise, you know. And he built a strong team in us. So yeah, Ken Bagnall.
Well, what did he teach you about rebounding from disappointment? Because there's a lot of disappointment in curling, end-to-end, shot-to-shot even.
Yeah, way more than, way more disappointment. I mean, as I said to you before we started, I mean, we had a lot of disappointment before we really had this lovely string of success. Something comes right to mind. Ken, you know, he trained us how to move on, you know, and this is the example we use many, many times. It was in 2001 in Sudbury. And, you know, so just after the 2 years you described, we came back as Team Nova Scotia in 01. And we started, I think, 1-3 or something. We started with that, okay, here we go again, you know. Ken used to speak to that, like what we used to see as a house of cards. He'd speak to that as well. But anyway, and so 1-3, we were playing Kelly Law on a Tuesday night, and we were up 3 coming home. And we gave up 3, and she stole the extra end. And so we lost.
That's devastating.
1-4.
Yep.
We're 1-4. I still get the chills just saying it. And I'm going, and I remember thinking, oh, well, we had a nice run. Like, you know, we won Scotties, and Kim quit. Kim goes, I quit, you know, she's just quitting. And Colleen, I remember seeing her sitting back up by the scoreboard, and I just ached for her because she still had this monkey of worlds, you know, on her back. And Colleen felt it all even more than we did. I don't think anyone realizes what she puts herself through at competitions. So anyway, back to how does Ken get us back on track? So he had these pieces of, you know, curling athletes strung around the arena. It really was a sight. Kim had literally quit. So he started with her, he had a one-on-one with her, but then when he brought us all together, he basically, you know, reminded us of our whole preparation and of the process, and that this was still just part of the process. Even this event wasn't our ultimate goal. And he said, it's fine to be disappointed, but you've got games tomorrow. So he said, you've got to pick a moment when you are going to you've got to park this. Pick a moment, whether it's when you touch the doorknob to go to bed, you know, in the hotel room, whatever. And we still refer to this as the touch the doorknob moment, when you establish a point when you've gone through your grief. It's all fine to go through all of your regrets and what you missed and what you know, but at some point you do, if you have any interest in having a successful week, you've got to pick a point and change your mood. And that touch the doorknob is iconic in our world, in our children's worlds now. We've used that so many times with our kids, with this touch the door, because they've all had various kinds of sport and failure, and I've used it with both of mine.
When you came back after touching the doorknob, you kind of ran the table and won that Scotties.
Ridiculous.
And then won the Worlds.
We did.
Listen, we'll take another break. We'll come back in the last segment. We'll play some video from the 2004 Worlds. Nancy Delahunt, one of the greatest leads to ever play the game of curling, our guest on Legends of the Hall. Six-time national champion, three-time world champion, Nancy Delahunt, the great lead for Team Colleen Jones, our guest on Legends of the Hall. How did it evolve, by the way, before we get to the video, where you'd hold the broom for the
a couple of reasons. Probably the main reason is Kim is a way better sweeper than I am, and is a way better sweeper than I am today. So that was one aspect. Plus, for whatever reason, I had a louder mouth, like for strategy, and I'd be kind of, you know, and so that was it. And the other thing was that this kind of, we didn't make that change for this reason, but we found a benefit in it. there was no discussion about Kim's shots when she got there. Kim would have been more interested. Well, was I heavy? Was I light? What happened there? And more time taken with analyzing her shots than looking towards Colleen's shots. But mostly, Kim was more comfortable and better and happier out there sweeping her little butt off. And to this day, she's still one of the best sweepers at age 56. Kim. She can compete with any 25-year-old sweeping. Right? She's incredibly fit. Yeah,
you were, I can't recall, were you the first lead to hold the broom for a skip?
I don't know if I was the first ever. It tended not to be the case in Canada, but in the Worlds it used to be. I don't remember any Scott that I've been at.
The first with huge success, though, I would think.
Yeah.
But let's go with it.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go with it. Yeah. We promised us some video here. We mentioned the 2001 Worlds that you won to get that monkey off the back. 2004. What do you think of when you watch this particular piece of video here?
Yeah, we were good. We were good then. Remember, I said earlier, I said we really weren't a great team. We were a great team by now. Yeah. And Kim, I remember her coming up to the house, and Colleen would be tentative to play a shot that was risky at all. Like, Colleen was a meat and potatoes, let's make sure of it. And so to play that double, Colleen would have been thinking, those are my kids in the crowd right there. Yeah, right in the middle row. She would have been more like, okay, let's just hit, And Kim says, no, I really like the shot. I want to play it. So she threw that in-turn double. And that was an incredible win, real satisfying win. Whereas the 01 win was as much a relief as a joy. This one was just pure joy.
Yeah, it capped it, didn't it?
Yeah,
it said,
really
we're good here.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Right. When Colleen would get in that hack and those eyes would narrow. Scary eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What could you see her
I loved it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Now, there was a lot of different competitive Colleen Joneses. Like, the eyes always there, and if they weren't there, well, then you had cause to worry, because she was distracted or whatever. Not that much would ever distract her. Good Lord, there was lots that could have, but she just different things. Her family was lost on a train somewhere when we were in Switzerland once, and she didn't know where they were. But anyway, we're playing a game the next day, and she's focused. So, but those were her fighting eyes. And as I alluded to before, Colleen put herself through a great deal of stress and pondering and thought and digestion of everything she did, like of the day that was and the day that's coming. And something that I don't think that generally, if you don't know Colleen Jones or you weren't part of our team, basically, you have no idea what she put herself through to perform the way she did. It's just the processes that she had to go through, and just it was just a big ask, and I was always so grateful that she would do it. I wished I could take some of the load from her sometimes, because she was so, it was just, I don't know quite what the word is. She'd go through a lot of pain, especially after a loss. She was just so hard, she put herself through a lot through competition, and I'm grateful for it, and yeah.
What do you think made her a leader, a good leader? One quality.
Willingness to be different. Willingness to be different. Willingness to step out of the box, and willingness to accept the criticism for doing it. So the will to be different, I think, and not being intimidated by being different, I'm going to say. And I think it goes back to her teenage years, and her years where she chose, she ended up in the media, she chose against going to university. I think she went for a year, but she just knew that wasn't it. And I mean, she has just rocked it in her career. You look at, she couldn't have chosen a better path career-wise, I don't think, for her. And I just find her so entertaining with what she did. But very different path, than most media personnel might have taken. So certainly in curling and in our career of curling and the year after year, she was always looking to be different and looking to be better.
That is a great quality, the willingness to be different.
Yeah.
We always wrap these up. We have about a minute left.
Yep.
With the question, where are they now? Where are you now?
Yeah,
this game remains part of your life, doesn't it?
Sure does, yeah. And I'm the slacker on the team now. I don't curl in the regular I say I'm not curling against the 25-year-olds anymore. That's just what I say. So Colleen and Kim are playing with a couple 25-year-olds. Marianne has her team of early 30s and 20-year-olds. And so, but we join up and do seniors. So, and I just came from the club now, actually saw Colleen and Kim by accident, and it was just, it's still such a joy, like to see them and to throw rocks. Like I said, going down in the locker room afterwards, said, "Oh, Kim, I just love throwing," you know. And I'm 60 years old, and I still have a senior, you know, career and competitions ahead of me. But I love to throw, and I love to see those girls. And the four of us are playing together in seniors for the first time. We've not played together since '06. So we are playing together this year, which is pretty cool.
The possibility of recapturing magic, perhaps?
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you, the Nova Scotia field is tough. The senior field, like our senior curlers are almost our strongest curlers in Nova Scotia.
It's getting tougher all the time,
It
too.
is.
Right?
It is, yeah.
Well, I like your
Yeah.
chances. Listen,
Yeah.
thank you for being on the
pleasure.
program.
Absolute
And
pleasure.
Nancy Delahunt,
Yeah,
the lead
yeah.
curler on the greatest team that Nova Scotia ever produced, Team Colleen Jones, winners of 6, well, 5 with Nancy and 2 world titles as well, and then 1 at the senior level. Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame is open weekdays from 10 until 5. Admission, as always, is free. Drop by and see us. And until the next time, we'll see you on Legends of the Hall.